Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. We have about 15 new people who have signed up for the COIN legislative team. Add that to about 15 people who've been active over this past year. And that brings us to about 30 people, which is really terrific. Um, just a real quick background for those of you, since most of you do seem to be new. Um, Typically, the legislative team members adopt some legislation and they track that legislation. It might be one bill, it might be multiple bills, but they track that legislation throughout the session. And some of the steps are, to identify what the bill is about, decide whether it's worth bringing to this group as something we might want to follow or something we might want to endorse or oppose. And then if we endorse it, we or oppose it, we put it on the website, and then we follow its progress through the legislature and take actions when we can and when necessary as a group. And we also provide that information to other groups, partner organizations, and indivisible groups throughout Oregon and encourage them to take action as well. So that's it in a nutshell. And for those who are new, we'll obviously be giving you a lot more information, and we'll offer some training and assistance in getting started on how to track legislation if you haven't done that before. And I know some of you new folks have done it before. So we welcome you all. So first on the agenda is just some quick introductions. So I started off here, but I'm Debbie Ferrer, and I'm along with Cheryl Conway, wave there, Cheryl, have been kind of a co-facilitator of this group for the last 2 or 3 years. And I am going to be gone starting Thursday for about 5 weeks. So Laura's going to fill in my spot and help Cheryl with the facilitating, keeping things up on the website. So really after today, if you have any needs for regarding the legislative team, probably would be best to check with both Cheryl and Laura. And Cheryl and Laura, maybe you can put your email addresses in the chat too for those who are new and might not have them. So let's go ahead and maybe we'll just go along. I'll just call out your name based on the order on my screen, and then you can tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe if you have a background if you're familiar with tracking legislation, if you've done it before, and if you know maybe what type of legislation you are interested in tracking, for instance, environmental legislation or um, uh, education, reproductive rights, healthcare, um, gun safety, whatever topics you are particularly interested in. If you know, go ahead and let us know that. All right, and Ines, McLaren Ines, you are first on my screen, so go ahead and unmute yourself and give us a quick intro.
Have I unmuted myself?
Yes, you have.
Okay, I'm totally flummoxed by Zoom. So with that caveat, that's my name, McLaren Ennis, and I live in Astoria. And I look forward to learning what you're all doing and be a participant as much as I can.
Thank you. Margaret?
Oh, hi there. I live in Salem, and we just recently formed a Salem Region Indivisible group. We've met about 3 times. Um, I'm pretty experienced in tracking legislation and lobbying, meeting with legislators and whatnot. I've done that through my union work and also other organizations. And well, everything that Debbie mentioned is like Very important. There is something interesting to me. It's called Food for All Oregonians. You may have heard of that. That's one in particular I'm interested in tracking, but all of the above.
Well, great, Margaret, I should tell you that COIN is actually a member of the Coalition for Food for
Oh,
Oregonians.
good.
We have
Good.
been tracking their legislation in the past, and we have supported it in the past.
Great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Kathy?
Um, Hi, my name is Kathy Welch. I live on a farm in Gaston, Oregon, which is about half an hour west of Portland. I'm a retired school teacher. My wife is retired too, so we're um, looking to help out. I don't have experience um, following bills, but I'm eager to learn and eager to do something to make this place better.
All right. Do you have some idea of what topics you might be interested in?
Right. Education. My background is education. So that, and we have a farm, so environmental stuff is important, of course. Um, and then, just social justice in general.
Okay. Yeah, there's so
All
many
right.
topics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say, if I may borrow from social media, all of this.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Kathy. Janie?
Hi, Janie MacDonald. I live with my sister here in Astoria, and one of the historic Victorians, which we both are very proud of, being in Astoria. I'm returning back to Astoria after a 20-year hiatus in Arizona, where I fell in love with the sun. So I'm having a little hard time. Just teasing. I knew what Astoria was like. Um, I feel that legislation is really, really important for all of us to keep up on and let other people know what's out there and happening. That's where things happen. And my topics I'd like to work with are the protecting democracy, the immigration and social justice, and climate. Those are the things I put on my top of my list.
Thank
So
you.
thank you very much. I'm happy to be part of the group.
Thanks, Janie. Cheryl?
I'm Cheryl Conway. I'm also in Astoria with some of the people on here. Um, I've been with this group almost from the beginning in terms of participating. I want people to know that depending on what time we're meeting, every other week or so, those who want assistance on how do I find this, how do I do this, how do I fill this out, I will stay on the Zoom meetings and take the how do I questions to help out. We may also schedule some training via Zoom. Those who are in Clatsop County, INCO is having a meeting Saturday at the senior center. And if you bring your laptop and stay after the meeting, I will go over some things with you as well.
Thanks, Cheryl. Jackie?
Excuse me. Jackie Brown, and it says JCB's iPad, and I don't know how to change it. So I am Jackie Brown, not my iPad. I started last year, and it was a great learning experience. I highly thank and recommend Cheryl and her hints. Both Chris Mack and I started last year, and we really have learned a lot. The bills I followed last year was the ban on book bans. I have an inquiry to see what the status is going forward on that for this year with Lou Frederick's office. And then also the quorum. It was one of the other ones that I worked on. And that one seems to be, according to Amy at Compom's office, is not their highest priority, but it is there. And if needed to be, it's kind of in that placeholder status, which you newbies will find out about. And I did notice, however, on Dan Meek's rundown that it is in the Senate is bringing it up as a resolution. So the quorum seems to be still alive, just in a little different form. but it's all very interesting. Addictive isn't a good word maybe, but it really catches your attention and gets your juices going.
I agree with you, Jackie. I have really enjoyed, and I mean, I never had any experience in this before, but I'm just so interested in it all now. Partly because we can make a difference. It feels like we have some power when we are lobbying our legislators. So you've done great work. All right, Hillary, you're next up.
Hi, I'm Hillary Ulig. I'm in Hillsborough. Um, we've just recently revamped and rebooted our Indivisible Hillsborough group, and they had a great meeting last night. I was sick and had to miss it, so I'm sad about that. But we're having great new interest out in Forest Grove, Gaston area. I've spent the last 7 or 8 years tracking gun safety legislation, and I'm happy to continue doing that. I'm also interested in education and reproductive rights, or whatever area needs more people to track. So happy to help out, be back with this group again.
Thank you. And we are glad to have you and your experience. Thanks so much, Hillary. Cliff, you're next.
Hi there. Yeah, Cliff Temple. And probably I'm pretty green behind the ear, or wet behind the ears yet, green. But my interest probably, I have a financial background, finance, mortgage, loans, etc. So I'm interested in maybe state financing, but also immigration and environmental things. But I'm new to this. I'm looking forward to diving into the researching, following legislation. And so I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Thanks, Cliff. Patty.
Hi, I'm Patty Kramer. I've been with COIN for about the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm on the climate, energy and environment team, and we spend a lot of time the first half of each year looking at climate related legislation. So I felt it was important to actually make attend the legislative meetings more often, since it would also give me an exposure to the other stuff that's important: transportation and healthcare and children and all that sort of thing. So I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Patty. Jeff Hammerland, you're next.
I'm going to unmute. Thank you. So I'm Jeff Hammerland. I live in Portland, Oregon, retired professor of clean energy and climate policy at Portland State University, who clearly does not understand the concept of retirement one bit. I also co-chair with Debbie the climate, energy, environment team. And although we have a revolving facilitator, so Patty and Laura and others are also vital members of that team. We meet, by the way, on Thursdays from noon to 2. And so those of you who've mentioned an interest in climate or in the environment might want to check us out. We tend to, we meet every other week right now from 10 to 2. During the off season, we meet monthly, and we may, during critical periods, meet even weekly at vital moments during this legislative session. But right now it's every other week. And we tend to delve into the climate and energy. Those bills tend to be sent to us first, and we really work them hard and have expertise, people following these very carefully. And then we will bring our recommendations to the legislative team. So that's how that's worked. The fact that people like Debbie and I and Laura and others are on both teams makes it easier, but that's a good process. Let's see, I've been working on, so I've been involved, I think, pretty close to the beginning. I was a founding member of what was once called One Small Thing, Invisible Group. Now it's combined with another, and it's Act for Democracy. And got one of the founders, I think, of what became the CEE. So I've been involved quite a bit and happy to help. I'm so excited to see the new people here, and you are giving me just great joy because we have a lot of work to do, and we were feeling tapped out before with we just didn't have enough people to do all the things we wanted to do. And so your participation and willingness to learn and willingness to contribute is music to my ears.
Thanks, Jeff. Chris?
Hi, my name's Chris Mack, and I joined last year with Jackie. Jackie talked me into it, so be careful when you talk to her. She'll get you to do stuff you hadn't thought about yet. And I would describe my experience last year as I picked kind of esoteric bills, and they included brassicas and biosolids. And if you don't understand anything about that, you will later. That's it.
Thanks, Chris. Catherine?
Hi there. I am a member of the CEE team. I do a lot of my work with Mobilizing Climate Action Together, otherwise known as MCAT, which is much easier to remember, where I'm the lobby coordinator. So we do outreach and discussion and actually have regularly scheduled meetings with legislators throughout the session and even before and after. So if you're interested in being part of a lobby team, advocacy team, you don't have to call it lobbying, but it is what it is. It's great to build relationships. So I'd be delighted to help connect you if you're not already doing that. But I'm deeply interested and passionate about climate change as an issue and been working on this issue for a long time. Thanks.
And Catherine, I have you on the agenda right after introductions to say, is that okay? To say,
I'm teasing.
do you have more to say about that than what you just said, or?
I can say just a little bit more, yeah.
Okay, okay. Stacy, you're up next.
Hi there. I'm from the Dells. I work in Protect Oregon's Progress Indivisible with my inspiring dear friend, Debbie Ferrer, who has encouraged me to get more involved at a state level. So this is me stepping in. I do not have experience tracking legislation, but I do have experience being impacted by legislation. So I think it's important for me to work on this, and I'm excited to learn how to do this effectively with this really interesting, diverse group. I'm a retired teacher. After 25 years, I retooled and became a special ed teacher. And I'm especially concerned about special education, including birth to 5 programs, because any undermining of the education department at the federal level means we'll lose protections for that really vulnerable group. So education in general, but especially SPED, will be what I'm looking to follow. Thanks for including me.
And Stacy is on our local ESD board. So she has some expertise from that area too. Okay, thanks.
Stacy, I often channel my wife in these meetings too. She was a professor at Portland State and created the dual licensure program for teachers who are interested in general ed and special ed. And so
nice.
she would be a fellow collaborator with you. She's in Florida right now, but your sister's dying. But anyway, but know that you have some other people involved. All right.
Thanks.
Hey, Lynn Marie, you're next on my list.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And hi, everyone. I'm pleased to be here this morning. I see some of my partners in crime on the North Coast on the screen, so yay. I live in Warrenton. I'm a former housing commissioner with Northwest Oregon Housing Authority. My primary issues of concern revolve around the whole spectrum of unhoused to affordable workforce housing and everything in between. In my former home state, I got to develop projects for people with mental illness so that independent living was possible. Some of that's happening locally here in Clatsop County, but I see this as a huge crisis for Oregon, and I'd like to bring my 8+ years of all things housing experience to bear legislatively. So thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. Great to have you. Laura, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm also from the North Coast, and it's great to see so many of us turn out for this meeting. I've been involved with COIN for a number of years, almost since its inception in various capacities. And right now I'm on the Climate, Energy, and Environment team. So that is a particular focus for me for legislation, but I'm also interested in everything else that's been described here. And I'm excited to work with all of you this session, which I think is going to be very telling and important for all of us.
Thanks, Laura. Henry.
Hi, sorry I've been late. I was busy with another meeting. I am most interested in immigration, but I am a physician, and so I have interest in healthcare and mental health in particular, since my specialty is psychiatry. And so those are the major issues that I have an interest in. I have been on a legislative committee for I didn't think worked out very well, but it was on a particularly mental health issue with Senator Prozanski. So I have a little bit of experience with and with the healthcare for all. We had some legislative involvement, so I think I can have a little bit of interest there that can be used for the benefit of COIN. I've been also involved with Indivisible, especially with the healthcare issues in the past. And but I'm renewing my interest in it at this point. And so thank you for having this meeting.
Excellent. Welcome and thank you. Alan.
Hi, I'm Alan Journet. I'm sorry I was late. I had a knee replacement surgery on New Year's Eve. Great way to spend New Year's Eve. Don't recommend it. But I had a medical appointment this morning, so that's why I'm a bit late. I am a co-facilitator of Southern Oregon Climate Action Now. I've been with CD2 Indivisible since it started with the arrival of Trump 1. And my main interest, given my association with SOCAN, what you'll appreciate is climate action. And that's why I'm part of the Climate and Energy and Environment team, as well as the legislative team. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And hopefully your knee is recovering well.
Actually doing a lot better than the last time I had a knee replaced.
Oh, very good. Okay, last on my list, but not least, Anthony Estrada.
Hey, everybody. My name's Anthony. I'm a licensed attorney and a state regulator. I regulate financial institutions. I'm a union member, union steward, and trying to find more opportunities to get involved in the community, community advocacy. As part of my job, I track legislation a bit. It's not primarily what I do, but it's something I'm somewhat familiar with. As some others have noted, there's so many areas that pertinent legislation is needed to address. And I'm happy. I don't have a particular preference, whether it be the environment or education or civil rights or any number of other things. I'm happy to be involved and do my part.
Great. Well, several of you mentioned that you have various areas of interest. And so sometimes what happens is somebody else finds a bill and says, hey, this looks really good, but you know, I'm full. I have all that I can handle. maybe someone else would be interested in this bill. So sometimes it's just a matter of finding something that, that really resonates with you, and it might be kind of out of your usual area of expertise, but it's something really important, and our members usually just pick up the ball and run with it. Cheryl or Laura, do either of you have anything to add about, just some real basics? I mean, there's,
I'm going to be looking through, the bills have already dropped. They're finally online. I want people to know that the OLS for the 2025 session is still being built by their IT. So you can't always find committee members. They've got the committee listed, but when you click on it, there's nothing there. So be patient, because it will be up and running, hopefully very soon. But I'm going to go through and pick out any bills that might have the slightest interest to anybody who's talked today. And then can go from there, maybe at the next meeting, to see if any of those bills are of interest to you.
Sounds good. Thanks. Laura, anything?
No, I don't think so. I'm ready to start.
Okay, great. Well then, going through the agenda that we had for today, I wanted to give Catherine Thomason a little bit more of a chance to talk about, because she had wanted to know if anyone in this group might be interested in collaborating with other organizations in our lobbying efforts, or something to that effect. So Catherine, if you want to add a little bit more to what you started in your introduction, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, the MCAT group works primarily on climate issues, and sometimes the bills can be a little far afield, but they still pretty much relate to climate. So there's actually a bill, for example, that is going to track how much fertilizer is applied in the Upper Umatilla watershed basin, because they have nitrates in the groundwater. But applying too much fertilizer actually causes nitrous oxide to go up in the atmosphere, and that's a climate issue. So isn't that interesting? So there's a variety of bills that we prioritize. We compile those bills before the session, starting 6 months ago, talking to our champions and finding out what they're going to offer this session. And then we gear up our teams, which is usually a legislative lead who understands the process, like Alan Journay is our new legislative lead for the area where he works down in Southern Oregon, to meet with his own legislators, Pam Marsh and Jeff Golden, who are two champions. And there are some areas around the Tri-County area where we're primarily based that need more people. But I'd also like to start groups that are interested in Eugene and the coast and a variety of places. I actually saw Dick Anderson, for some of you on the coast, that's actually co-sponsoring a bill that's part of my I can't remember which one it is at this point, because I've just reviewed too many bills, but there's hope in some of these areas. And there's also a lot of water bills that are coming up, which are really an impact of climate change, and in terms of not having enough water for a lot of different reasons. So we build our teams, we encourage people to get to know their legislator, meet with them, or just go to their town hall meetings, send them regular messages. And we do encourage these direct meetings and provide the materials and background that people would need for these events. So if people want to put in the chat that they're interested in contacting me or just text me, and we can set up a time to chat. That would be really fantastic. I think that directly engaging and building a relationship with our own legislators as constituents is one of the most impactful things that we can do. And we, as a group, are delighted to work. We have leaders who are from Climate Reality. We have a leader who is from, obviously, Alan from SOCAN. We have, people from a variety of different groups that participate as well. And it's just really great to have constituents meeting with their legislators, because it means, frankly, the most. It's more impactful than industrial lobbyists. So, but we have to be diligent about coming back to them. So that's what we do. We participate with Oregon League of Conservation Voters in their lobby day. But on the short sessions, we did our own lobby days. So there's opportunities of many types to go to Salem, or most of the time, these are Zoom meetings. So they don't take a ton of time. And they only give us about 15 or 30 minutes. So we make the most of those 15 or 30 minutes when we meet with our legislators directly. So happy to entertain any questions, or again, just text me or put in the chat that you want to be contacted. That would be great.
Catherine is really a lobbying expert. I had the pleasure of following her around on one of my very first lobby days last year. And oh my gosh, she is tenacious. She'll just walk into anybody's office and strike up a conversation. And she's really a great resource for us. And that will be part of what some of us do is, besides just tracking bills, is going and talking to our legislators and joining with other groups like MCAT on their lobby days, and meeting up, and even if we might be tracking, for instance, if we might be tracking education bills, we might as a group, we probably will as a group still support the other bills that our group members are tracking. And so we kind of work together outside of our area of expertise still to send emails and to even attend lobby days sometimes for those issues as well. So we have a chance to kind of get outside of our area of expertise and our area of interest. As Jeff, you've mentioned multiple times that you appreciate that aspect of it. Jeff, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. It doesn't show it up, so I wasn't sure. Well, I was going to say pretty much what you just said, Debbie, about Catherine being an amazing educator and leader. The other thing I'll add is that we, KOIN, tend to be so successful for a variety of reasons, but one of them is that we partner. We join coalitions. And so, I mean, I'm actually a member of MCAT as well. We partner a lot with MCAT and with SOCAN and others, and sometimes much larger coalitions as well. So that's we are powerful in and of ourselves, but we're even more powerful when we're part of a broader coalition. So that's an important point to make, I think.
Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next on the agenda is to talk about meeting times. So I've had
I'm sorry, I was going to mention one, I'm sorry, Debbie, but I was
Go
going to mention one sentence, and that was that another groups I'm involved with is Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, and we have an environmental team there. That group, we're in that hat, often use the KOIN legislative team website as guidance. So we rather than recreate it, we just use it. And so know that once you put something up there, it will be available for others to look at and learn from. So you're tripling and quadrupling your influence that way.
Yeah, so true. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, meeting times. We have been meeting for a couple of years now at 10 o'clock on Monday mornings. I've had a couple of people who would really like to be a part of this group indicate that Monday mornings are hard for them. And so we've talked about possibly Monday afternoons or even Monday evenings as a possibility. So if I can get a sense from this group, are there folks who could absolutely not meet on Monday afternoons? say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Jackie, you could not?
I have a class at this time, at that time.
Okay. And Chris, you've already mentioned that that would be a harder time for you.
Yeah.
How about Monday evenings?
No, that doesn't work for me at all because that's when our indivisible group meets.
Okay. Patty?
Yeah, I can't meet after 3 on Mondays, but I could meet anytime before 3.
What about noon? Is noon a possibility? Cliff says no.
Yeah, that would be.
Maybe what I should do is put out an email, because there are obviously some people who aren't here who can't meet on Monday mornings, and just put out some times and just see what we can do in terms of, what's best for the most number of people. I will say that, Cheryl, go ahead.
If we could continue, like at least going through like Tuesday, see if there's any days automatically we throw out because
Oh, okay.
and we'll just raise our hands if we can't. So like Tuesday morning.
So Tuesday morning, shall I ask, who could not meet on Tuesday mornings? Okay, so Tuesday mornings don't look good. Tuesday afternoons. Okay, Wednesday mornings. You could not meet on Wednesday mornings, right? Okay, that's Cheryl and Laura, so that's definitely out. Wednesday afternoons.
I could if it ends before 4:30.
So
too.
Could you said, Cheryl? Chris, is your hand up because you could not meet Wednesday afternoons?
It's a downer.
Okay.
At what time are you referring to on Wednesday afternoon?
Well, without going into all the times I guess we're kind of looking at, right now we're just looking at any time Wednesday afternoon, if you couldn't meet at some time Wednesday afternoon. I'm
Okay,
just wondering.
My hand is up then.
Okay. How about Thursday mornings? And typically, I would say, I'm probably thinking mid-mornings, like probably not starting before 10, but Thursday mornings, is that a possibility? Not for Jeff? And Thursday afternoons would probably be out because that's the same time as all the CEE meetings. How about Friday mornings? Not. Okay. Friday afternoons? I see no hands up. Is Friday afternoon a possibility for folks then? For this group? Okay. Let's see, I've got a couple of new messages in the chat. Yeah, so Lynn Marie, I agree. We've got a couple of ideas here. It looks like we've kind of eliminated some of the days that won't work for a number of people, but I think a doodle poll is now in order. So I'll try to put that together with I'll work with Cheryl and Laura to find out, since they're going to be facilitating, to find out what days and times are best for them. And then we'll put out a doodle poll hopefully this afternoon or tomorrow. Okay? And we'll go from there. As far as frequency of meeting, kind of like the CEE team, the legislative team has met, last year during the short session, the legislative team met weekly, every Monday morning. But with a longer session, things may not be happening so quickly. So I think probably the best thing to think about is to maybe plan to meet every 2 weeks for now. And if there's something coming up that's really urgent and some decisions need to be made that we need to have, some discussion about, then we could have another meeting in between. But for now, I think we'll go with meeting every other week. And this might be a little bit tricky because sometimes there might be more than 4 of those days on the calendar, but I think it's important to go every other week rather than saying first and third or second and fourth. Does that sound okay? And then, a special meeting could be called in between if there's a lot of important legislation that's coming in and maybe some decisions need to be made about it. All right, so we'll get a doodle poll out and find a day that works for as many people as possible and go from there. And we have another new guest here. Kevin just joined us. Kevin, thanks for joining us. We've just been doing some introductions. So just real briefly, do you want to tell us who you are, where you're from, and maybe if you have some experience in tracking legislation and what topics you might be interested in?
Thanks, Debbie. Sorry to join you late. I didn't see the email and had surgery on Friday, so I'm at home recovering. I'm a retired physician. I did family medicine for 39 years, working with disadvantaged folks in different populations in central Washington mostly. And I'm living in Hood River now, and I'm retired. I'm interested in following healthcare and all of the other social determinants of health parameters that affect people. This last summer, I worked helping Nick Publon, who was running for the state house seat in our district, looking at his opponent's voting record over 2023, 2024, and put together an itemized list of his votes, usually against every social measure that came up. And that is what got me interested in doing this work. And I think it's a way to get other folks in the community involved when we have important legislation that's coming up, to get them to call in, write in, and maybe be more politically active between elections. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. And as we were talking about meeting days and times, I want to also emphasize that there are always people who want to participate and just can't join the Zoom meetings. And that's still okay, because a lot of our stuff gets taken care of by email. And so if you can't attend the Zoom meeting, you can still put forward information about your bill by email. And then the group can discuss that bill and whether or not to endorse it based on your recommendations at the Zoom meetings. And so you absolutely can participate without attending any meetings, or you can participate by attending some of the meetings or all of the meetings. So anything in between still works. It's nice and helpful sometimes to have the communications by Zoom where you can talk to each other and have some discussion. But as I said, we have a number of people who are not going to be able to attend every meetings or possibly any meetings, and it still works. Okay.
And Kevin, I want to add that since you missed the intros, there were a number of other retired physicians here in this team. And I mentioned partnerships earlier. One of the organizations we often partner with is Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility. And Catherine's a member of that group, for an example. So we work well together in coalitions, I guess my key point there.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. For those who, I think I sent a link to the 2025 COIN Legislative Team website, but if you missed it, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat now. and we'll also send it out again afterwards. But it's going to look pretty blank right now, but you will find a link to our 2022, 2023, and 2024 legislative pages near the top of this page. So you'll be able to see the work that we did on bills in the past. And just briefly, I want to kind of, for those, especially for those who are new and for those who have done this before, just review the process of getting a bill to our KOIN webpage as endorsed or opposed. Individuals such as yourselves may find legislation that you're interested in. You do some research on that bill, and some of that research might include looking it up online on the OLIS website, which will provide some help if you haven't used that before. Looking at who the sponsors are, maybe even contacting those sponsors or their offices to find out a little bit more information about those bills. Looking perhaps at other groups who are supporting that legislation and looking at their websites to see why they're supporting that legislation. And then we have a KOIN worksheet that is a fillable Google form. And so you just fill in some blanks on this worksheet, such as a short description of the bill, who the co-sponsors are, which other groups are supporting it, which are opposing it, so a few other questions, and I'll send you all a copy of that. Need to do that. Sorry, I'm making some notes here to myself. So you can take a look at it. And then once that is filled out, you can submit that to the group for review before one of these meetings. And then the group will discuss those bills at the legislative team meetings and decide whether or not KOIN should endorse or oppose. Sometimes we might decide we need a little bit more information. Maybe we're going to watch the bill for a while. So this happens sometimes when a bill, for instance, has some things that we like, but some things that we're not so sure about. But we want to keep tracking it. So we might post it on our website as a bill that we are watching. And in that sense, then we can put information up there to encourage people to contact their legislators and urge them to do something else to make that a better bill, like, take some parts out or add some pieces to it. Kevin, you put a question in there. How do we submit that worksheet? Is that what you're asking? So we do have a Google Groups email, which if you want to be a part of this group, I will add you to. In fact, I might have already added you to it because I think you indicated to me by email that you wanted to. So we have a KOIN legislative team Google group. And if you email to that, it'll go to everyone in the group. And so we just then ask, please consider this bill for endorsement, and I'll be bringing it up at the next legislative team to see if we can, get the group to agree on endorsement, and then we'll have some discussion and vote on it at the next legislative team meeting. So it's kind of an informal process. I mean, we don't really have an official quorum or anything, but we do represent KOIN as a group, as a statewide organization. So we do take our deliberations really seriously and try to think about whether or not the decisions that we're making would be reflective of the whole organization. And if we then decide to endorse or oppose or just watch it for a while, we'll go ahead and post the information about it on the website with a link to that worksheet and links to the bill on OLIS. And this is the job of Cheryl and Laura for the next 5 weeks, and me when I get back. So the three of us have been kind of the website workers in the past. So we'll talk more about this as we go. It's not anything that you're going to have to jump into like immediately, especially if you're new. Some folks who've been doing this before already have some bills that they are following and tracking and will want to be able to bring forward sooner rather than later. And so you'll get to see kind of how they're doing it before you have to, have to take action yourself. So it's kind of a learn by doing process. So once those bills are posted, then we continue to track them and we continue to provide information on the website about upcoming, we call them action alerts. If there's some kind of a hearing that we want people to go to or provide testimony for, either in writing or in person. If you're brave enough to talk in front of the legislators, you can do it in person or online. Or a lot of people submit written testimony too, which is super easy to do. And more about that a little bit later. So that's the basic process of getting a bill to, to the point where COIN is endorsing or opposing it. We also do allow for changes because sometimes as bills go through a process in the legislature, they change. And so we might be opposing a bill initially, but maybe it gets changed at the last minute and then we want to support it. So we continue to track those bills even after we have made a recommendation on them until they either pass in the legislature or die in the legislature. And there are certain dates by which bills that haven't had any action may be considered dead for the season. And if that happens, then we maybe move on to focus on some other bills that we haven't yet been looking at. That's a real short, very brief overview of the process. And as I said, for new folks, we'll provide additional training and additional assistance. We also would like to pair those who aren't very experienced up with someone who is experienced as sort of a mentor. So that's an option. And I'll put something out in the next email about that, inviting those who would be willing to be a mentor to respond, and those who would like to have a mentor to respond, so we can get folks paired up in that way. Questions about that in general?
I just want to make a comment about, you can watch on video the sessions, the committee meetings, and that gives you a good perspective on what people are saying about it and what the implications are. So I recommend that because it's pretty useful in terms of information. The other thing I'd like to say is reading the testimony is a kick. It's a lot of fun. It might give you some good laughs. So
yeah, really good point, Chris. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a big part of doing your research ahead of time, is attending some of the hearings about the bill. And if you can't attend them live, they're all online, they're all
recorded
online live, but then they're also all recorded. So if you can't attend at the time that they happen, then you can watch them anytime afterwards.
If it's on a bill that we are looking at in any way, we will actually have those links posted right on our webpage. So and we'll tell you what time the live session is, and you can click on then. And after it's done, we'll give you the link to the recorded video. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to hear what others are saying.
Yeah, that website, our website, is going to become one of your favorites for sure this session. Okay, in the past we have updated it pretty much daily. I'm not sure we'll be doing that right off the bat. There might not be quite as much to do every day, but it's been a big job. But we take turns at it, and like I said, if you are unsure of what's happening, the best place to go is just to go to the website, and you can see which of the bills that we're endorsing are having hearings that day. Okay, next on the agenda.
Debbie, I'm sorry. Catherine already left. I have to leave out now too. We have a standing of a Sarah strategy at 11.
Okay, Great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Take care.
Okay. The last thing on the agenda is to ask if anyone has any bills that they want to, that they know about right now that they would like us to consider watching, or that they are in a process or are prepared, I guess, to ask for us to consider endorsing or watching. We wouldn't mind getting a few bills up on that blank website right now. So you're welcome to go ahead and start as soon as possible if you've got some things in mind. And I know some of our CEE folks have already been looking at some bills, and so I expect we will get some of those up probably this week. Anybody have anything? And sometimes they might be called legislative concepts at this point, and actually have a number. And when they're introduced in the legislature formally, and the legislative session begins next Tuesday, January 21st. So when the bills are formally introduced into the legislature, they will get a bill number. So right now they might be considered legislative concepts, and they'll have the LC and then a number after them. And some others might have names because maybe some groups that have been working with the legislature on developing bills might have given them a name. I'm trying to think of the one that there's a couple of them. Of course, I'm going to not be able to think of them right now, but there are some bills that have names. Laura, did you have one?
Yes, the Hunger for All, or I forgot what the name of the coalition is that I
Food for
follow.
All.
Food for All Oregonians is going to have a bill that will require schools to provide meals for children. Right now, many Oregon schools do that, but there's about 3 dozen or so that still don't provide free meals for children. So that's going to be something to watch in the legislature.
Another reason for kind of talking about some of these bills is that then we can identify, okay, well, maybe that's a bill that Laura's going to be following. So if that's a bill that I was looking at, that I might look at something else then. Jackie?
I was wondering if you or Cheryl have any ideas on how to find a bill that we were watching last time to see if it is coming again. Is there any shortcut to other than going through every one of the bills to find out?
Well, if they have a name, if they had a name last year, they might still have the same name. So you could do that in the text search. The other option is to just call the person who sponsored it last year and see if they're doing anything about it this year.
You can search keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bill already on brassicas again. So I did that already. Looked at it. It was like, oh goodness.
Alan, you had your hand up. Did you have?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to point out that legislative concepts are not posted on OLIS, but now all of the bills that have been pre-filed are available through OLIS. I think somebody's already mentioned this, and we know that because Dan Meek has given us all the bills on elections, and I have been going through the bills that have been filed using keyword searches. I haven't quite finished it yet, but
I'm not sure, but I think those might be the bills that have been brought forward by committees. And so
not all of them. Some of them are individual.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Legislative bills.
Because I know there was one deadline back in December for bills that were introduced by committee. They had to be submitted to the
Legislative Council.
To the Legislative Council by a certain date. And then those that were individual bills had a later date. And I think it might be coming up maybe even this Friday. So,
I suspect there are going to be more bills filed between now and the 21st. I was actually surprised when I was going through that. I was expecting multi-thousands of bills to be listed. There are several thousand, but it's not as many as I expected.
And the other thing is,
expecting more to come.
For those who are new to this, there will also be a number of bills that will be what we call placeholder bills. and they'll have a bill number, but they really will not say anything. They might be something, for instance, about campaign finance reform, but it will basically not say anything about what the bill does. And so they will introduce this as a bill on campaign finance reform, and then it will be amended at some point during the session. And so we kind of have to watch those too sometimes, because they can kind of sneak up on us. They can say nothing or be very neutral at some point early on, and then they can become something, very much that we want or something very much that we don't want. So it gets a little bit tricky sometimes to track these hundreds and thousands of bills. And of course, we're going to miss some, but being part of these coalitions will also help us, help us catch some of those that might slip by our group. Other groups may catch them, and so on.
Yeah, it's probably worth, if you see a bill that says so and so will study something, that's a flag to say, I'm a placeholder.
Yeah. Yep.
Somebody has something more evil in mind, but they don't want to say it yet.
That is sometimes the case. That's true. Well, this may feel a little overwhelming for those who are new, but trust me, it's not. And you can, as I said, take on as little as one bill and get really, really comfortable and familiar with the process with that one bill. And it's a great experience. Do anyone have any questions or comments?
I want to mention too that even if you're not sure you want to adopt a bill your first time through this process, we value your opinion. So if you come to these meetings and you read about the bills that we're looking at, we appreciate the experience that you would bring in recommending whether we oppose or support. So please feel like you're welcome to this meeting, whether you've adopted a bill or not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not necessary even to adopt a bill. We would really love to have one member of every indivisible team throughout Oregon on this legislative team, so that every group has a voice in which bills KOIN endorses and opposes. I know that's probably a stretch, but we're getting closer. We've got about 30 people who are signed up for the legislative team, and we've got something like 50 groups in Oregon. We're probably better represented than we were in the past. So, and it's kind of a two-way flow of information. Not only do you as members of other indivisible groups get to have a say in what groups KOIN endorses or opposes, but then you can also take the information back to your local groups about what KOIN is promoting or opposing. Other questions or comments? If you haven't already, be sure and take a look at the website and take a look at, there's two pieces of information to kind of help you get started. One is a document that Alan wrote last year, I think, called What is an OLIS? So it kind of gives you a background about what OLIS is, and that's where we get most of our information about the bills and about the meetings that are taking place, the hearings, and so on. And Cheryl has also put together a very helpful short video. It's 10 minutes or less. 5?
Unfortunately, some of the pages have changed.
Oh, okay.
It was accurate in 2023. Some of the pages may be reverted back to what they looked like before, after the session begins, but some of the pages have changed their format. So I'm not necessarily going to recommend you trust everything you see. You say, well, my page doesn't look like that. Well, it's because it's old. It was an old page.
But the process is still really valid, and so it's really helpful to look at, and it's short and sweet and very helpful.
I would like to echo what Cheryl just said, because I was going into OLIS, as you will appreciate, to collect the list of bills, and it's not dramatically different from last time through, but and I think the fact that they're still constructing it might be the explanation, but it's not quite the same. the best way to work with Ollars is to go and play with it, and then things become relatively clear.
Well, and I would also,
don't be overwhelmed by it.
you go ahead and click on all the submenus you want, and as long as you can go back into the right hand or the left hand corner and click where the Seal of Oregon is and the little Capitol building, it'll take you back to the original page. So you can go into the weeds as far as you want and jump back quickly to the portal.
I'll add just one other thing, and this is kind of another layer of complexity that you probably don't need right now, but some people did mention that they are part of the CEE group, the Climate, Energy, Environment group. So this is a group that meets about not just legislation, but a lot of other issues related to climate, education, and environment, and a lot of other actions outside of legislation. But they, during this time, really spend most of their time talking about climate, energy, and environment legislation. And so then they bring their bills that they've been discussing to this group for approval or, some decisions about endorsement. And in the past, we've had other groups that maybe are interested in healthcare, and they might be small groups of 3 or 4 people who might, kind of exchange emails and either meet by Zoom or have discussions kind of privately by email about their group, their topic, if they have similar interests in a similar topic. And last year, what we ended up doing was we had not really enough people for groups to form on different topics. So we ended up having one group that we called the Everything Else group that dealt with all the other legislation besides climate, environmental, and environment legislation. And so that group ended up meeting once a week or sometimes less often, but they shared their information by email just to kind of bounce things off of another group before bringing it to this legislative team for a final decision. So that may be something that we end up doing too, but just to give you a little bit of a preview on kind of how this process works, is that you don't necessarily have to do this work entirely on your own before bringing it to the legislative team for approval. You can work with some of the people who are working on similar topics. So as we kind of figure out what bills we're going to be supporting and following, then we'll try to kind of connect you with each other so that you can work together and make sure you're not duplicating your work, but also so that you can work together on similar legislation, if that makes sense. Okay, well, thank you everyone very much. We ran a little bit over today because of lots of new people and introductions. Normally we try to keep our meetings to right at an hour or less. So we'll get a poll out to figure out our next meeting time, but it'll probably be 2 weeks from now, after the first full week of the legislative session. Okay? All right. See you all later. And Cheryl and Laura, if you could stay on for just a minute, that would be great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Debbie. Good job.
Thanks. Bye, Stacey.
Thanks, everybody.
McLaren, if you just hit the X at the corner.
Oh, not leave meeting.
Well, that
Here,
works.
go ahead. Yeah, that'll do it.
Now I have it all.
Bye, McLaren.
You can stop the recording if you want.
Oh, good idea.